afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So here it's for one more episode of Inspiring People. And I have this amazing person who I've been talking for the last 10 minutes, and she has told me about some so amazing things that I want you guys to get to know her. So, welcome, Nancy. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Thank you so much for having me today. It's an honor and a privilege, and I hope I say something that's interesting.
I'm sure, like I always say, everybody has a story to tell. So,
Mhm.
let's see what you have to share with us today. So, could you please introduce yourself? Tell where were you born and where you live right now?
Okay, my name is Nancy Korf. I was born in Seattle, Washington, and spent most of my early life in Olympia. Right now, I live in Portland, Oregon area, and I live here with my husband of 25 years, and I have two kids.
Very nice. Nice, nice, nice. So how was this move? I mean, you were how long did you live where you were born?
I grew up in Olympia. I went to grad school in Seattle. And so I went Olympia, Seattle, Olympia, Seattle. I met my husband in undergrad at University of Washington. And then we went to grad school together, University of Washington. He got a job in Oregon and I wanted to marry him. And so that's how I got to Portland. And we always wanted to come back to Washington, but that was 30 years ago that we moved here. So I think we're here to stay. And
Uh,
Oregon is lovely. I would eventually like to get back to Washington and hopefully near some water, maybe when we retire.
because you are in the mountains. So it's more like mountains where you are, right? Am I correct?
I'm kind of in a sort of a flat city on a river. We've got some lovely rivers that run through Portland. I grew up near the bay, which isn't quite on the ocean because we were inside the bay in Olympia, but I had water that was changing all the time. The tide would go in and out. There'd be waves. It would be flat. The river's just a little bit more consistent, and we're about 10 miles away, so it's very easy to access. Um, I just don't get to spend as much time by it as I would like.
Very nice. So like I always like to start. Let's go back in time. Let's go back when you were a child and tell me a little bit about your childhood and what has happened to you that most certainly has influenced of whom you are today.
Okay, so um, I had two older brothers, a mom and a dad. So my brothers were 10 and 12 years older than me. So I was almost like I was an only child. My mom and dad had two boys and they really wanted a girl and they really wanted a girl. So they tried and tried. They had a few miscarriages and finally they adopted me. So I'm adopted and that's why there's a big gap between me and my brothers because there was all that time trying and then they finally adopted me. So I grew up kind of alone just because my brothers were so much older than me. I was pretty close to my oldest brother who's still living. He's in the Seattle area. He's retired, living on the water, living his dream. Things are good for him. And we were kind of close. My other brother is no longer with us, but he was also in the Washington area. Um, so what affected me growing up is the fact that I was adopted, the fact that I was kind of an only child, and then the middle brother had kind of a big bearing on why I became who I became, I think, as well.
And so how this has impacted your life? I
So
mean, you always knew that you were adopted or it took some time for them to open up to you?
I always knew. My parents told me I was adopted when I was 17 days old. My mom was a freshman at the University of Washington that she didn't want to be in school. So getting pregnant was her way out of school, and I was the result. But and that's about all we know in my file because in the early and middle 60s, adoptions were sealed. I cannot legally find out who my mom or my dad were without going through a petition through the court to get the records open. And even then, whatever those records say may not be much. So I always knew I was adopted, and I was born in an era that's not quite as open as today. So it would be pretty hard for me to find my parents, and I've chosen not to do the 23andMe and that kind of stuff because I did have parents or non-biological parents who loved me very much, and I didn't want to hurt them while they were living. But at the same time, being adopted and always knowing it, there was always that little, your mom didn't want you. Your original mom didn't want you. And on the flip side, there was the parents who adopted you wanted you very much. So it depending on which day you talk to me, it could be, oh, my mom didn't want me, or it could be, I was handpicked by Victor and Florence. And I was very lucky to have been handpicked by Victor and Florence. So, you know, it was cool. It felt a little weird because my parents were both very into genealogy. My dad's family came to the US from Germany 4 generations ago. My mom traces her history up to the Mayflower, and they've got all the spreadsheets and stuff. And I'm like, but I'm adopted. I'm none of these people. So there's a little bit of kind of disconnect, which is also freedom because it means I'm who I am. I'm who I want to be. I'm not tied to either of those genetics, and I'm not tied to who my unknown mom and unknown dad are. I'm me. I'm just who I am. So that's kind of cool.
Nice. So growing up, what was your dream? Because I always ask everybody, because I think this is so important. Every time nowadays, probably things have changed because everybody wants to be a YouTuber or a TikToker. But back in times, you wanted to be really someone, whether a doctor or a teacher or something. What was your dream at that point? That you always fantasize? Is this, when I grow up, I'm gonna be this? What was it?
When it's going to be silly, but when I was little, what I wanted to be is I either wanted to be a professional ballet dancer or I wanted to be a Rockette. The New York City Rockettes were like what I wanted to be. And you're actually looking at the 1984 Washington State high kick champion. Thank you very much. so, so I could kick like a Rockette, but you have to be 5'5.5", and I stopped growing at 5'3 3/4". So my dreams were dashed in my teens, and whether I would have ever made it, I could kick, but I was not in a dance background. I've got a music background. When all my friends started ballet, I started piano. So we never know if I would have made it as a Rockette, but that was like the dream. I wanted to be a Rockette, and then when I went to college, I called home after my first quarter and I said, okay, I'm not majoring in engineering. I'm going to major in flute performance. And so that was going to be me because I had been a competitive flute player since 5th grade. And they said, come home now. We're not paying for that. Flute players starve. And I know that came from love. That came from much love because my dad had wanted to play French horn and his parents didn't let him, and he became a very, very successful engineer and executive. And out of that same worry and that same love, flute players starve, find something else. And that was actually the best strategy I could ever have had. And it wasn't a strategy, but so imagine that your child calls home and says they want to be something you don't want them to be. Whatever I picked next was going to be awesome because they were so afraid. And so I went in and I called back with my next major. I have a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. And I went in from psychology into working with at-risk teen. That was my first career. I was an employment counselor for kids who were either lower on the income scale, they had physical disabilities, developmental disabilities, they had been in prison or juvenile detention, tough kids. I worked with very tough kids my first couple years out of college, and it was my job to help them develop job skills so that they could break whatever cycle they were in or supplement whatever cycle they were in so that they had opportunities to grow. And it was a hard job.
This switch was big, right? From a flute, and then you became a psychologist. But when you look, even like when you go back in time, and then you say, okay, I wanted to be a ballet dancer. It didn't really happen. I loved playing the piano, And but how was your childhood as far as being almost the only child, because the distance between you and your brothers? What did you used to play with? How was, like, being at home and then knowing that you have two big brothers?
So I lived in a really super fun neighborhood because I could walk down to the beach because our neighborhood was on the bay. We weren't on the waterfront, but we could walk to the water really easy. So I grew up in the woods, building tree houses, playing in mud. I was your typical tomboy. And so I was outside all the time. I was climbing things all the time. I was digging up stuff and swimming all the time. And that was really fun. So what did I play with? I mean, I had toys, and I used to do skating around the basement because we had really smooth concrete in our basement. So I would skate and scooter, and there were about 10 kids in our neighborhood, and I was friends with most of them. So that was back in the days. Now, you call and you arrange a play date from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock. This was the early 70s where the parents would say, go outside and come back for dinner. And so who I was going to play with on any given day and whose house I was going to be at. And we were never worried. We just went and did and swung and swam and climbed. And it was fun.
When you think about it, right, comparing to today's reality, this is freedom, right? Because I
Hmm.
remember me playing also. We used to come, my feet like half dirt was it, because we are always on the street and nothing to really worry about. I used to come and say hi to my dad at work, and he says, "What are you guys doing here?" "No, we just came to say hi, Daddy." Those
Hmm.
kind of things. And this is what I miss the most, seeing the kids today, right, in their computers, in their phones, and you talk to them, they don't even realize that you are next to them. So I'm so glad to hear that you had this fun time. So going into your teens, how did this get better? Were you a shy person, or how?
Okay. Very shy. And here's why. So I told you there were two things that kind of shaped me from childhood. One was being adopted, and one was the younger of my two brothers. My first brother is alive, well, happy, successful. Second brother was undiagnosed for many years with paranoid schizophrenia, and he was self-medicating with all sorts of drugs. And so, as I was very small, he was a teenager, and my parents were trying to navigate parenting a child who was very difficult to parent. And so there was a lot of yelling, there was a lot of screaming, there was a lot of them not understanding what his issue was, and which was a legitimate medical issue that was being made worse by his medication, self-medicating. So what did that do to me? That made me very quiet, very, very quiet, because I can remember, here's our table at the kitchen, dad's straight across from my brother, and I'm at the end trying to be very small because I didn't want that yelling focused at me. And so I would be quiet. I would say whatever I needed to say that was the minimum so that there was no attention drawn to me as an individual. And that shaped a lot of how I became and who I am today. I really want to read the room. Like now I'm on this interview and I have no idea who is watching, but typically if I come into a room, um, I'm going to be on the edge of the room and I'm going to get the lay of the land, and I'm going to see who's there and how are they acting and am I safe and who do I need to be in this situation, because I'm careful. So that kind of affected me. It made me a quiet person. It made me a careful person. And it gave me the gift of observation, which has been a benefit to me through my whole life, because sometimes the people that walk into the room and just say who they are don't ever see who everybody else in the room is. And that's one of my biggest gifts now in my career, is rather than here's who I am, I take the time to say, who are you? Tell me about you. And that way I can get really efficient and effective at seeing what people need from me because I'm great at observing.
But I think it is a quality when you say
Mhm.
so, because that's what happens the most nowadays. Is like, okay, I am so and so, I'm big, I'm famous, and but what do you have to offer me? Is it something special about you? Let me get to know you. So I think by observing people, you probably feel, you probably notice things that most people don't. Like you said, you see that if you look at, there is a chat going on,
Okay.
uh, and it's Matt from Canada. She's a Mexican Canadian. She's saying, "My dad said to me, finish your computer diploma, and I will let you finish your acting degree, so you don't starve." Those years in acting school made me such a way better person, and I don't think I would be where I am if I hadn't had that opportunity.
Oh,
Isn't that amazing?
absolutely. Absolutely. I wish my parents had given the support. Okay, I have mixed feelings about your post because let you finish. It was good advice. You got beautiful advice and you got to do both. I didn't get to do both. Um, but I honor and admire that you got to do acting school because being emotionally intelligent, being able to read a room, being able to react in an appropriate way, being able to be graceful in any setting, that's people skills. I got brain skills. I've got brain skills more than people skills. I've been told a lot that I'm a brain on a stick, and that's right.
uh, Everybody has something that shines more than others. So growing up, you became a little, closed in. And what were the difficulties? I mean, have you ever suffered bullying because you're too quiet, or have you ever had, a situation in school, bad grades or something, just because what was going around you?
So for me, I was only bullied a little bit. My parents tried to keep me very busy. And because I was very busy, I don't think anybody ever bullied me because everybody knew me. I was in gymnastics, I was in drill team, I was in symphony, I was on the math team, I was in a lot of French club. Because my parents had the Eagle Scout. And then they had the child that they didn't understand, that they didn't know how to help. And I was 10 years later, and I was like their last opportunity to parent. I was kind of raised like a little veal in a box, very tightly controlled through my teens. I had a lot of freedom when I was little, but in my teens, it was like, you are smart in math, you will be an engineer. You are smart in physics, you are smart in chemistry. So when I called home and said I wasn't going to be an engineer, that was a big disappointment to them. So I got lost off my track. That's the problem. My life goes like this. My dad's life is like this. My brother's life is like this. My life.
No, I was asking about, how the, things that you went through with, attention into your brother and you being quiet, if that has had an impact on your grades, on school and growing up.
Okay, so I was kind of answering your question because for me, it wasn't so much being bullied because everybody knew who I was, and I was nice to people. I think if anything, people thought that I was a little bit stuck up because I don't see. If I take off my glasses, I see flat, and I didn't know that in high school, so I was shy, I was quiet, and I could not see. And so I was a lot of times down like this, with the books around the chest and looking down. And it wasn't until I got glasses for college that I realized that trees actually had points on their leaves. And so for me, I wasn't bullied, but I'm sure that people thought I was kind of stuck up or they realized that I was shy. I had tremendously good grades. I felt growing up because I was adopted that I had to prove to everyone that I was good enough. So not only was I good in math, I was in the top 10 at my high school. Not only was I good in running, I had the record for the mile. Everything I did, I had to be the best at because I constantly had to be worthwhile. And so that was kind of the hard thing that I grew up with. It fared me well because I was very successful in every career I've had because it taught me how to work hard. But sometimes working hard can come from non-confidence, and sometimes working hard can come from passion. And what I've had to learn going from teenager to adult is how to work hard and define success based on my passion rather than based on what dad wanted me to do,
So
rather
this
than based.
was your decision. This is something
Mhm,
that you told yourself, that's
mhm,
how it's gonna be because I
yep,
have to, right?
yep, yep.
Wow. So when you were growing up and then you're always connected with people with all involved in the math and everything, and then you said you went to the flute, and then of course we know that this was something, a dream that says no, no. Why psychology? Do you think this has anything to do with your situation with your brother, and then you looking up to how can I help people because of all I've been exposed to?
Yeah, that could be it. I didn't necessarily want to be a clinical psychologist and counsel people like my brother, but I've always found people fascinating because as that quiet person that sits back and reads the room, I like to watch and I like to understand what's going on with a person. So psychology, studying human and human interaction was fascinating to me. And so I got the psych degree and went into service for teens at risk. And it it worked for me at the time. I had people telling me, "Why are you doing psychology when you could be an engineer?" And I'm like, "Because I want to change the world." And but the math and the science are really where my brain went. I found it very hard working with youth at risk is hard. It's rewarding, very rewarding that we change some lives forever. And then if you focus on that, it's the best job in the world. It's there's also some people that had some not successes, and that was hard for me. So I eventually decided to go into some other businesses, and I only did social work for about 3 years before I started a little business on the side, and that got me to graduate school.
So this
So
has impact your life when you're working with those kids in so much in need of attention and care. How did this has impact you as a person, and then later on as a mom, as a family, as a wife?
ooh, you got the deep question. You got the deep, and there's a deep answer to that. Because I went into social work because I wanted to help other people because I felt helpless in many ways. And what I learned from working with youth at risk is by the time a teenager got to my office, it was not impossible to change their path and improve their path. It was a lot easier if you could get them younger. So what I learned from that career was to love children early and to take care of children early and to let children blossom and to really intervene or support or love or touch or care for or encourage or compliment when kids are young. Because what a lot of the kids that I worked with never got that. And you can teach them. You can teach them. There are people that had terrible childhoods that have gone on and to be amazing and incredible. So I'm not saying that people never succeed. They do. They absolutely do. It's just for me, I learned the earlier that you can love someone, the better the easier it is for them to grow.
But it's what you know anybody says. It's like how you give the examples you give. It's gonna somehow impact whether bad or good. It's gonna impact in anybody's life. You know.
Hmm.
Uh, so you said that working with that and then open up you to go to grad school, but that's when you met your husband. How was all this connection? I mean, you're just starting grad school and then boom, you fall in love. How about that?
So we missed one degree. So I met my husband in undergrad at
Oh,
University of.
undergrad. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. So, well, he's 2 years younger than me, and so he was finishing up his undergrad while I was doing social work, and we were dating other people, and we were just friends. So I was very naive, very naive. I went to a frat party. I met a guy. I went to the top of the fire escape. We talked all night. His name was Clint. We had a great conversation. I gave him my phone number. He said he was going to teach me how to play racquetball. I went back to the sorority with my girlfriends. They're like, he does not want racquetball from you. He does not want racquetball from you. And he taught me how to play racquetball, and we were friends for 2 years. And then I broke up with my college boyfriend. He broke up with his college girlfriend, and we started dating in the period between undergrad and grad school. He was my number one helper and support when I developed a business. I did own a bungee jumping business. We did a hot air balloon for 2 summers in Washington, and we put people up in the balloon and we jumped them out, and Clint would come, and neither one of us are morning people. I knew it was love when he would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning so we could be out at the field at 4 o'clock in the morning to blow up the balloon and get everything ready so our clients could jump at 8 o'clock. That was love.
Oh my God, I have to say. So you were talking about buddy jumps. So it is true.
It's true.
That it is.
True.
So it's not something I just misread. So tell us
No.
about it. What made you go into this business?
Okay, so I'm fresh out of college. I'm fresh out with my psychology degree, and I'm in a social work position, and I want to change the world. And I'm in a little office, and I'm working with youth at risk. It's me and it's my boss. We're in a very small office in a small community, Shelton, Washington, which at the time had the highest per capita teenage pregnancy rate in the US. And so it was our office and the Crisis Pregnancy Center shared a building and with the alternative school. So that was what we had. And so, but most of the time school was out, and the pregnancy center had very limited hours. So it was just basically me and my boss all day, chit-chatting, waiting for clients, helping clients, calling clients. And so we would joke about, how are we going to make our first $1 million? What are we going to do to rise above in the world? And we came up with some crazy ideas. But on Entertainment Tonight, it was like the summer of 1990. And if you're from Washington, you might remember this. The first bungee jumping business in North America was a bridge in Nanaimo, Canada, and it was on Entertainment Tonight. And both my boss and I saw it independently, and we came into work, and I said, I saw bungee jumping on TV last night. And my boss goes, and Simpson Bridge is in Mason County. So there's this bridge that was by our office, 900 feet across, 330 feet down, old growth forest everywhere. You can look up, you can Google it. It's called the Vance Creek Bridge. And it used to be, it's Simpson Timberland, and it's gorgeous. And so we thought, oh yeah, they'll let us bungee jump off our bridge. And so we went and we tried to meet with them. And they said, if you come on our property, we will have you arrested. So we bought a hot air balloon because we were not to be deterred. And so we rented out a cow field in the middle of Matlock, Washington, which is in the middle of nowhere. Even if you're from Washington, you may not have heard of Matlock. So we were in the middle of nowhere with a hot air balloon, and we were throwing people out of the balloon. It was great. It was fun. It was amazing because we were into it. We were so into it. We had an engineer design our system. We followed another pattern that was designed by an engineer. They trained us, they taught us. Everything was as safe as possible. Instead of 1 carabiner, we had 2. Instead of 1 bungee jump cord, we had 2. We had multiple hooks. So we did the best we could for safety. And we thought that we were safe. And just to be able to open up a business that was ours and say, I started this from the idea. I saw bungee jumping on TV, and then to make it happen. It's my baby. It was my baby. And we had the highest jump in the United States in 1991 and a little bit into 1992. And
how was your first time really jumping? Because this was your business. You're helping people probably fulfill their dreams to jump. But how was your first time?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked me that, because that's a super fun story. Because I said, I'm pragmatic about things. We cannot go into this business if we will not jump first. I don't sell anything. I don't do anything, I don't pitch anything if I would not do it myself. And so we got in the car and we drove up to Nanaimo, Canada to jump from the bridge before we decided to go into business. And I had, as my three business partners, I had a friend, I had my boss, and then my boss's wife. And I had this idea. I was going to make sure that all three of them survived. And if they did, I was going to jump. But we got up to the top of the bridge. And when we got up to the top of the bridge, there was a married couple that they hook the things to your ankles. And then the couple hugs each other and they jump at the same time. And because they were a married couple, Trish and Mark, they're like, oh, we want to do that. And so the guy at the top of the bridge, he goes, that's fine. And then he points at me and he goes, okay, you need to go first. And before I even had like 5 seconds to think, they're like moving me up to the edge of the bridge. They're putting the cords on. They're talking to me. They're getting me up. And they're like, we're going to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you're going to go. They didn't even let me breathe. They got me 5, 4, 3. Before I even had a chance to think, I was like, and I jumped. And then there was a scream. Ah! I've got it on video. And it goes, Roop! Ah! Roop!
I'm having goosebumps just to listen to you.
But at the end of the last, you can hear on the video, I'm laughing hysterically. And then, so the people, my friend Mark and Travis, they're like, she's okay, she's laughing because they're videoing, like, yeah, she likes it, she likes it. And I'm like, yeah, woo. So we were all in. We bought a business. I had saved money to buy a down payment on a house. I was going to buy my little house in Olympia near the water and be a social worker and do that. And I cashed out all that money and I bought a hot air balloon.
Oh my God. And what was the feeling of jumping? Especially because it was just 4, 3, 2, 1 and boom. How did you feel? Is that like a freedom feeling? Is that, what kind of feeling is it knowing that, okay, I'm falling?
Okay, so here's exactly what it felt like. And there's going to be 1 or 2 bad words. Okay, so the first thing, because, they rushed me off to the end. And then they don't give you time to think, because if they had given me time to think, I would have frozen on the deck. And there's no refunds. But either way, I jumped and I was like, the first thought was, I'm falling. And the second thought was, I'm still falling. And the third thought is, oh my God, should I still be falling? And the fourth thought was, oh fuck, I'm still falling. Because it was like boom, boom, boom. And then right after that oh fart moment, then the cord catches and you start to decelerate, but you're not sure if the cord is really going to catch you and if you're really going to survive and bounce back. So you're like, ah, and then the cord catches and you're like, oh good, I'm alive. So let's go, ah! But then the cord gets to its maximum pull and it pulls you back up. And then you go, and then you go back down again. And so there's this series of up and down. But then when you end, it's fine. They lower you down into the boat and you feel like Superwoman or Superman or super person, because you've just conquered. Most people are afraid of heights, like 99%. Yeah.
Like, just listening to you, I'm like,
Yeah, I would not have put myself as a bungee jumper. I was great in gymnastics in high school, but I didn't want to do a handstand on the high bar. And so I'm afraid of heights. But because I loved these people, we had this vision, we saw how Nanaimo, and this is how I figured out I was eventually going to be an accountant, because everybody else saw the trees and the bungee jumps, and I saw $108 every 3 minutes, 2 gates. That's $108 every minute and a half times 8 hours times 7 days a week. I was doing the math and I'm like, this is,
yeah.
I was like, this is a $12 million business. And so when we did our, and I don't know how much Nanaimo ever made, but just doing that math, I was like, oh, okay, we need to do this. And I was the treasurer and the accountant, and I learned by doing that I actually really, all the time when I was doing social work and people were telling me I was an accountant or an engineer, I discovered through bungee jumping that I really was an accountant because I kept track of how many jumps we could do on the cords before they had to be retired, our receipts and our payments, and were we profitable, and how much did we have to pay the farm we were jumping on. That was me. I ran the business. I was the accountant. So when I applied to grad school and said, I'm an accountant, they were like, yes, you are. Let's give you your master's. And I started, instead of getting an undergrad degree in business, I got a master's in tax accounting and a master's in business with zero business background, other than the fact that I had started a business. I had no business classes before that, no economics, none of it. And I ended up with a double master's.
You
It was,
see, this is it. That's what I always say. Sometimes life experiences
mhm, yeah.
it gives you opportunities that you might never consider or think. It's
Mhm,
just because sometimes we're too afraid, right? And then look at you, something that you probably never thought of doing has given you, surreal
mhm,
opportunities. So then you were friends with your husband for 2 years, and then
mhm.
how did you guys decide, okay, that's it, we're made for each other and let's tie the knot? It was just like this, or did
No,
something?
I don't do anything very rushed. Well, I went into a bungee jumping pretty rushed, but he went directly from undergrad to grad school at UW. He's an engineer, a computer engineer. And I went from undergrad in psychology to getting a scholarship to business. When I decided I was going to go into business, I took my entrance exams. At the time, it was the GMAT. I don't know what people take now, but I scored really well on the GMAT, which is your entrance exam, and I could have gone anywhere, literally anywhere. But my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, said, "But I love you." So I picked UW. I really wanted to go to Dartmouth, but I picked UW because I wanted to marry him. And we're coming up in about 3 weeks on our 25th wedding anniversary. So I think I made a good choice. So it's, 25 years and two kids later, we did good. We're doing
And then
good.
how long did it take you guys to decide on having a family?
A long time. That was the big sticking point between us because I didn't want kids. And he kind of did because I had a tough upbringing. I had issues with feeling unworthy, and like I constantly had to be good at everything and prove everything because I had troubles with my adoptive mom, and my biological mom didn't want me, so I had stuff to prove. And I didn't. I was the hardest person on me is me. And I thought, I can't possibly have a kid because I will be so hard on that child that it, it wouldn't do service to the child. And I was afraid of kids. I had never babysat. I had never changed a diaper until I changed Connor's the first time, my own kids. I had never changed a diaper. Um, but Clint wanted kids. And I wanted to be with him. And I thought, rather than looking at how hard it's going to be, maybe I can look at my life at 60 or 70 or 80, looking back. Will I be happy that I didn't? And so I started reframing what it meant to be a parent. And I thought, I could do this. I can do. And I said, I will give you one child. One child. No, I said, I will be pregnant one time. I don't care how many come out, but I will be pregnant. I will be pregnant one time. And so we had Connor, and he was cute. And then we are like, oh, we'll have another one. So we had McKenna.
And
And
what's the in between them? How long? Oh, so you sort of like waited, and even though Connor was cute and you wanted, and then you still waited 5 years.
we didn't wait. We didn't wait. We tried when he was one. I had I had two miscarriages. I had seven IUIs, which is where it's an intervention procedure. And then we had IVF, which is a really big intervention procedure, 3 times. So it took us 5 years because we went through hell, literal hell, to have our second daughter.
You couldn't hold the. Is that what happened? Your placenta was like too thin that you couldn't hold. What happened that it made
Um,
you go through all
well,
this?
um, so there were a couple of things. First of all, I was advanced maternal age. It by the time we got done with grad school and by the time we got married, we decided to have kids when I was in my mid 30s. And so, um, advanced maternal age, nobody tells you this when you're young. You know, your fertility is like up here when you're 18, and you shouldn't necessarily be doing things like that. And as you get older and you're stable and you're ready to have kids, your fertility from 35 to 40 goes. We got pregnant with Connor really easy. I was 34 or 35, but trying to get pregnant with McKenna, part of it was there was a male and a female component that I don't want to go super deeply into live on the internet, but there were miscarriages, there was intervention, and I gave up. I literally gave up. My dad took us to Hawaii because throughout all of this process, my mom was dying. And so the year anniversary of my mother's death, we went to Hawaii to do where they put the flowers in the water. It's a ceremony, and we did that. And I was a stay-at-home mom by that time. I had retired from tax accounting to be mom, and Clint had to go home. I stayed with my dad for a long time. Clint went home. He went to work. Of all of the people that he could have ridden home on the plane with, he rode home with my OBGYN who was interviewing for a job in Hawaii. And he's like, don't tell anybody. So he rode home with my OBGYN, and the OBGYN says, she needs to do IVF one more time. And so my husband called as soon as he got home. He goes, when you get home, we've got to talk. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? What's the matter? What? And so he's like, we'll do an IVF one more time. And if we do it one more time, then if it doesn't work, I'll adopt. And I wanted to adopt. Clint, my husband, was very flesh of my flesh. Genetic material must pass. And for me, as an adopted child, I was like, this completes a circle, and this helps a child who needs help. So he said, if IVF doesn't work, we'll adopt. And I said, okay, if IVF is the price that I have to pay to adopt the child that I want, we will do it. I did IVF the third time and final time, and we got pregnant with McKenna, who is now 14 years old.
Very. Has this impact to you emotionally? I'm sure it did, right?
It was tremendously impactful because we didn't tell anyone when we were going through secondary infertility. It was 14 years ago. People didn't talk about that stuff. As we go generation and generation and generation, we talk more about sex. We talk more about relationships. We talk more about pregnancy, infertility. Nobody talked about it. At least in my circle, nobody said anything. I was heartbroken with miscarriages, and I didn't even tell my mom. Because my mom didn't even know that I was trying to have a second child. She wanted a granddaughter so badly because she had two sons. She bought me, and then she had.
She bought me
because I'm adopted. I joke about that. But then my oldest brother got married, and they had two sons. So my mom wanted a granddaughter. She really did. And when I was pregnant with Connor, she was sure. Connor was a girl. She got me little pink outfits in size like 0. And I had a 10-pound, 22-inch boy. And so my mom, 10 pounds. Wow. Yep. Emergency C-section.
Oh, okay. Much better. Yeah.
So it impacted me because I wasn't telling anyone, even my mom. I wasn't telling because I wasn't telling her we were trying to have kids again. And she died before she ever got to see her granddaughter, which is kind of sad because she wanted a girl so much. But I know if there is a heaven, that my mother is watching our daughter.
Oh, I definitely know that. I truly believe that. So you told me about that you always love fitness because of gymnastics and everything. So after all this, the grad school, the business, how did the fitness really fit into your life? I mean, were you always practicing sports and everything regardless? And how did it happen?
Okay, so fitness, how did it fit? Okay, undergrad. Okay, we got to go back a little more. High school, drill team was my life. I was not only a performer, but also a choreographer for high school drill teams, not just mine, but local drill teams. And in college, the reason I went to the University of Washington is because they had a drill team and I wanted to be on drill team. Not because it was a great school, which it is. But I only applied to one school. My parents were very nervous. And the only reason I went to UW is because they had a drill team. And my goal was to be the captain. And in fact, I was the captain of the drill team my last year in school. But so drill team was my life. And I would choreograph and I would teach. There's no feeling in the world like when you have this vision in your head and you go 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 32 people or 56 people do the thing and it works. It's like, oh. so when I got out of undergrad, before grad school, before bungee jumping, before any of that, I started teaching fitness because as soon as I got out of college, I didn't have drill team anymore. And so I bought a gym membership and I quickly learned that I was going to be that girl in the back re-choreographing routines. So I may as well be the girl in the front. And there are sometimes you have the rude members that go up in the front and they re-choreograph. I was never that girl, but I knew that I could teach and that I was more interested in teaching and choreographing than just being in a class. So I started fitness 30 years ago in April of 1991. My first class was on April Fool's Day. So I just celebrated 30 years in fitness and I had an April Fool's Day class and it was awesome. It was really fun.
Wow. So the question that, I'm sure everybody wants to know, who found each other? Zumba found you or you found Zumba?
Both. Okay, so when I was in fitness, I was the boot camp girl, the TRX girl, the step aerobics girl. I taught a lot of different things as a hobby because I was a tax accountant. I actually, after grad school, I went into international tax management. I had a big fancy career and fitness was my hobby. Fitness was the job that kept me sane. And it's the one job that I've had all 30 years. I've been a lot of different things. Fitness has been the constant thread through 30 years, but it was never dance. Although I could kick like a rocket, I wasn't a dancer. I was very precise in my movements. And so Zumba
like choreograph. So you like to choreograph. So somehow you had the ability.
I had the ability, not so much. People don't come to me as an instructor because of my dance skills. There is not a person on the world who would pay to watch me dance. And that's okay. That's okay because it's how I make them feel and what I pull out of them and the way that I coach people to bring things out in other people. That's my talent. It's not being able to dance. It's not being beautiful or young or thin. It is pulling the best out of every single person and teaching them how to pass that on. And the way that Zumba found me is I found Zumba. I was never going to teach it. I took B1 with Gina Grant and I went home crying because I couldn't dance. I could not dance. And but I wanted the CECs and I wanted to see what this Zumba thing was because it was getting popular and it was taking over step classes and I taught step. So it's, keep friends close, keep the enemy closer. So I took B1 10 years ago so that I would know my enemy. Literally. If there are people from Zumba that are higher up than me, I'm sorry. I love you. I'm sorry. But what I found when I started teaching Zumba, because my first Zumba class wasn't because I wanted to teach it. I put together a class because I wanted to be able to sub it, because I wanted to be a good employee that subs a lot of formats, and then I lost my voice. So I went into my high-low class, and I can cue with my hands in Zumba. And I sort of whispered, we're not doing high-low today. We're going to try Zumba. And it was phenomenal. It was amazing. And it was so unlike anything I was. And yet I did it anyway. And it was fun. And people were like, oh my God, what was that? Boomba? And no, we didn't even, they're like, oh, you got to do it again. You got to do it again. And slowly I turned my classes from step classes and boot camp classes. I replaced my own step classes with Zumba. And so I started doing more and more Zumba, and I started being active on what used to be the forum. It's still there on the site. Nobody uses it anymore, but I had an opinion about everything. Everyone's entitled to my opinion. So the reason Zumba found me is because I would get on the forum and I'd say, well, actually, you need to stretch both calf muscles. You have a gastrocnemius, which crosses the knee and the ankle, and you have a soleus, which only crosses the ankle, and you need a small angle on it. So I would write these long posts on the forum, and I wouldn't write anything unless I knew what the science was. But I tend to write dissertations, and they noticed that. And so in 2013, when they started thinking about the Zumba mentoring program, they approached me and said, we want you to do this pilot for this mentoring program. And so I wrote the manual for that, and I did the pilots, helping get mentors.
Yep, I've been a mentor since when the program started. So
bless you.
Cool.
The world needs more of you.
And I have been a ZCon also since
awesome.
It started. Yeah, very
yep.
nice.
So that's how Zumba found me. I think Diane Falcones noticed me. She was the head of Stop Party Crashers. She's recently retired, but she still kind of does a little internet stuff as Marie.
Her birthday 2 days ago.
I know. So she kind of got me my start in Zumba, and I used to go to convention and sit in her sessions, and then she would have me sit on stage with her, and she would ask me questions, and we'd be like Ed McMahon and Johnny Carson, because she comes from the heart-centered place and I would come from the science place, and it was really a privilege to be in sessions with her. And then after the mentor program had a pause, I thought, this is it. This is where I'm going to make my step into Zumba, because Zumba Step had just launched, and I would have given my left butt cheek to be a zest for the Step program, because I taught Step for 20 years. I'm like, Zumba knows me. I'm in the mentor program. I can step up, down, backwards, sideways. I'm Step. And so I sent an email to Joy Prouty. Dear Joy, you must know who I am because I wrote the mentor program. And, so, and I am a fabulous at Step. And she sent me the nicest email back. Bless your heart. Thank you so much for the mentor program. Keep trying. We're full at this time, which was basically a nice way of saying, get in line. There are thousands of people just as talented as you. But, you got to ask. You've got to ask for what you want, because I did not get the Step S. And so I decided to apply for Jammer. And I did my Jammer choreography, and I sent it to someone within Zumba. And I said, should I even apply for Jammer? And she said, your cueing is top notch. Your instructor skills are top notch. Your choreography is cute, but you don't dance as well as everybody. And the field is so deep in Zumba, we can hire people who can do everything. It's not that you're bad. It's that you're not everything, and we can hire people who can do everything. And I'm like, oh, so I'm not going to be a Zess. I'm not going to be a Jammer. So I went and I did another format. I was like, forget Zumba. And I went to another format, which was a hip hop format. And I did that for 2 years. And I decided, no, I don't really like it. I went back to Zumba. And about a year after I went back to Zumba, I got a text. Joy Prouty, 5 o'clock in the morning, because I'm on the West Coast, she's on the East Coast. Hi, Nancy, this is Joy Prouty. Can you call me today if that's okay with you? And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? I said something terrible on the forum. I must have said something that just got me in trouble. So then she did remember me. And from when I sent her that letter about the mentoring program and wanting to be a Step Zess, and she said, we have a position, it's not with Step, but we need someone who really knows the science. We know someone who really knows how to work with multiple levels of fitness ability. And so she was describing, and she never said Zumba Gold, but she was describing me. And she said, so I'm asking you if you'd like a position as a Zess for Zumba Gold, if you would like to apply for that, because we do have an open position and we still have your application from Step. So I still had to apply because my application was old, but I was allowed to apply for Step, and I got it. But it was amazing. I have to say, when I called her I said, do you really know who I am? Because I said, I am 50 years old and I am 30 pounds overweight. Because I get shit in the fitness industry for being old, and I get a lot for not looking perfect. There are a lot of people, that was a lot of stuff I've gotten for that. And she goes, of course I know who you are. I know your heart. And dang it, I'm not the oldest Zest, but I'm probably the biggest, and I don't care. I don't care. I've been a Zest for 4 years, and there are people who come to me because I'm me. There are people who will not come to me because I'm me, but I'm about staying with Zumba because of the people who come to me for who I am, not for the people who don't like who I'm not.
You see, but this is the most amazing thing is when people do believe in you and come to you because who you are, and that's something that I think it's the best skill anybody could have. It's being you, because that's what's missing in the world today. We're
Yeah.
missing honest, true, authentic person. And you have shown us that. This is wow. And seeing you getting emotional with it
Yeah.
is, it makes even more special. More special. I cannot wait to take a Zumba Go with you. I am licensed already, but I'm gonna sneak you on your training because I want to see, you know, you teaching, because it has to be amazing. I do.
Inclusion is very big for me, and gold is very big for me. It's a whole different story, which we won't go into, but my child, McKenna, has Down syndrome. And so I work not just with seniors, but I also work with individuals with special needs. And so all of my classes, I have people young and old, and I have teens with special needs because the school district sends their students to me for PE. So my thing isn't just gold, it's actually multi-level. So I will start here and I will take that class to wherever they want to go. And it's about, I don't care who you are. I don't care how you dance. I don't care how fast you move. I don't care whether you jump. I just want you to be you. And so it's a gold class, but it's not. It's a Zumba class, but it's not, because everything that I do, everyone's welcome in my class.
This is one of the most amazing things. Our Zest here in Brazil, Ludmilla, she always tells us that one of the most beautiful things about Zumba Gold is just like what you said. Anybody can do it. You can do it for the rest of your life because there is no restrictions, nothing like you cannot. It's always you can, despite of, you know, if your body doesn't follow, if your mind is not 100%. And I have seen her, you know, her work with the special needs in here, and the ones in wheelchairs and everything. So I do believe in what everything that you're saying, that you can make it special because you include everybody. And once again, I think that's what's missing in the world today. We have seen, I mean, what do you think about the pandemic when you think about everything that's happening? This is, regardless of religion or anything, it's a time for people to rethink what is important. What's the reason I am here? What am I supposed to do as a human being? How can I contribute? And that's when it comes my question to you: how the pandemic has affected your life, your family life, your job, and everything else.
I have rebuilt from the ground up in a great way. It's been really hard. I've been fortunate. My family is alive. I have lost friends in the pandemic and friends of friends, and I have friends who have had it, but I am lucky that my family is intact. I did lose all of my jobs in a period of 24 hours, and that was really hard because as an achievement-based person, for me to be unemployed for the first time in 39 years of working, a lot of my self-esteem was tied up in, I'm a trainer for blah, blah, and I'm an instructor at blah, blah. And I lost all of that. So I had to rebuild. And it's been really amazing because the community that I've built online through Zoom, I wouldn't trade for $1 billion. It's a small group of people that I absolutely adore because they know that I see the miracle in them and they see the miracle in me. And we have fun, we play, we joke, we dance, and it's just this little fun place. And I have people of all sorts of different abilities that come to my class, and it's cool. It's been hard because um, our daughter needs constant care. If you leave her alone, she will either um, eat all of the ice cream in the freezer, or she will walk outside and meet the policeman on. So we have to always watch her. So I can't go back to the gym yet because I don't have childcare, and my husband is working, so I am the childcare. So I'm still mostly online, very little in person. So I've developed ways to connect with people online, and it's working. I'm a one at a time connector. I've never been about I need 5 million people to come to my training or my master class or my jam or my whatever. I'm more of I like this group of 7 or 9 or 10 people who I can truly serve well, and I can know them and I can see them and I can appreciate them, and I can give to them rather than splash at them.
Absolutely. Andrew is saying being able to read. Yeah, he's here. Yes. He says being able to read people is a wonderful skill to have and useful in Zumba, inspiring the instructors who train with you and are you have enabled them to be the best they can be. Ismet saying we are pretty close. Nanaimo is one hour drive from where I live. She's in Canada, but right on
Mhm.
the border. Greg
Did
is
you
here
jump with them?
saying, "Oh, I don't think she would, but I don't know, Ismet, have you jumped?" Greg is here. Say, "Yay, Nancy!" Josephine from Puerto Rico is here. Betsy Meadows, my friend Crystal from Connecticut. Werner from New Zealand. He says, "So
Oh,
true.
wow.
Yes, being older and trying to work in the fitness industry is pretty hard." Werner is I think he's 65 and he's a Zumba instructor. He has done master classes with us. He's amazing.
You're
Uh,
interviewing him in a couple weeks, aren't you?
huh?
Aren't you interviewing him in a couple weeks?
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
he's my next one. Yes, absolutely. Is medicine so sad? I just heard about you. I might have taken my goat with you since my goal for taking it was to focus on my Special Olympic people. And to be honest, the as I took was not quite my best match. Um, yes.
So I'm not doing this interview to like sell anything. That's not why I came today. But if you feel like you wanted to train with me, come to a jam because we can talk about that, or just reach out to me, send me an email. And I love working with kids with special needs and adults with special needs, and I do it a lot. So if you feel like that wasn't a specialty that you got, because it's not part of the gold curriculum, it's just part of what I do because of who I am, message me. I'm pretty easy to get in touch with.
Very nice. Oh, so you are a gold gemmer as well.
I am. Oh yeah, I'm a gold. I should say that. I'm a jammer. Come to a gold jam. I rock. So
That is so cool. Bexy say, I understand that so much. With taking care of the kiddo, online connections is such a blessing. Wenner says, that's the main key in my view. Find your squad, and they are the ones that support you in many ways. Fiona says, I'm so grateful. Thank you. And then Ismet says, thank you. I'll reach out. And Josephine from Puerto Rico says, I took a gym with Nancy and it was
Mhm.
fantastic. Wow, look at
You're
you.
friends with Allie. I think Allie is your Zumba Gold Mama. I think I know you through Allie, and you came to our co-jam, Josephine from Puerto Rico. I think I know who you are.
Fiona says, so grateful to have gotten to know you, Nancy. Thank you for joining our inclusion in Ireland. Wow, look at you reaching out
Next
the
year,
world.
invite me again. Please invite me again. I loved doing your event. I adored doing your event.
That is amazing. So we're gonna do some quick interactions now. I'm gonna say a word, and you're gonna answer me with another word.
Oh, okay.
Bungee jump.
Scary.
Life.
Gift.
Family.
Gift.
Fitness.
Privilege.
Human being.
Miracle.
Zumba.
Blessing.
Playlist.
Eclectic.
Very nice.
Or
Oh,
rock and roll.
I like that. How do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
In 5 years, I won't be fully retired, but I am in my mid 50s. So I will have, and my kids, McKenna will be out of high school. So hopefully she will be either still living with us or maybe even in a residence home where she's semi-independent, and then I can travel. I am a travel bug. I want to crawl over the entire earth. I've been to just over 30 countries and I want to go to all of them. And so in 5 years, I will still be serving, I will still be giving, but I will probably be doing a lot of it online so that I can do it from Aruba.
Wow, excuse me. Maybe you should come to Brazil.
Oh,
You know?
I will. I will. You invite me. You set it up. I'll do a code jam with Dennis. You have jam with
Yes,
Dennis.
Dennis. Yes, I sent him a message saying that I was going to interview, but I think he was busy.
He's
But I did send
wonderful.
him. He is
He's
amazing.
wonderful.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I told him I'm very suspicious because I always love his job. I'm taking his jam on the 20th of June. You said about traveling in 5 years. So to my next question, how about in 20 years from now? Would you be still living where you are, or you think you might be like a gypsy?
20 years from now. Okay, so I will be 75. I will still be healthy and I will still be doing adventure travel, eco adventure travel. Because I like to go out in the woods and I like to go on safari and crazy stuff like that. And I will be healthy enough to do that. And the clients that I still have will be coming to me because they will want to be healthy enough to live their most vibrant life. And so maybe I'll be leading eco fitness tours for vivid, vibrant seniors, and we'll be going all over the world. That would be awesome. I'll still have a house and it will be somewhere near water. And I'll still be married to the same man.
That is so cute. Very nice. I love that. I love it. And maybe a granny.
Maybe.
Oh
My
my
son is
God.
only 18, so it scares me to talk about that. But yeah, in 20 years, yeah, he could have kids
Yeah,
in 20.
it gives him time to work, things, go to college, meet somebody nice and so forth. Fiona says, I'll totally join you on your Echo Fitness too. Greg said, Echo Vivid Tours. He has even given you a name. Look,
I like it. I
Echo
like it.
Vivid Tours. And I'll be joining you because that's what I'm studying to be a holistic therapist. And that's how I see life nowadays. In
Mhm.
all the natural, I'm trying to become a vegan. I don't think I can do mentally I can do that, but this is my purpose. Let's see. So count me in. Werner
We
said
should talk
interest.
purpose sometime because what we do goes together. So you and me, we're not done talking. Maybe not in an interview situation, but holistic kind of stuff. You and me, we're not done talking.
Oh my God, it will be my pleasure. So Werner said interest in why Aruba, an island of Venezuela and part of Holland.
Just because I want to go somewhere sunny. But the next place I'm actually going in fall and early winter of 2022, I'm going to South America and Antarctica. So I'm not just about the blue water. The last two continents I need to go to are South America and Antarctica. So I'm hoping to go through the Chilean fjords and then down to Antarctica and go camping in Antarctica. That's the plan.
Ooh,
So,
interesting.
so what I like to do is I don't like to sit on a tour bus. That's not my kind of travel. I like to go and do something. So we've rafted the Zambezi in Africa. We've done rafting in Australia. We did the bridge climb in Australia. I like doing stuff. So I want to go places, do stuff, and teach people how to be healthy enough to still go places, teach and do stuff.
There you go. I was just telling most of those people who are here, I told them we didn't have a convention for 2 years. Hopefully we will have for next year. And I told them, why don't we just rent a car, a Jeep? We start in Canada with Ismat and start going doing a road trip up to Orlando. And they thought, you're crazy. Oh my God. Some of them said, no, it's going to be amazing. And I'm telling you, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take 3 weeks. We're going to go slowly from Vancouver and we're going to go through Washington up to and arriving for a convention to, you know, meet everybody. So maybe
That's
pass
cool.
by you.
Yeah, I'm not that far down past Washington. I'm in northern Oregon, so you could sweep by or I could just come up and say hi. I still have family and friends in Olympia and Seattle, even though we're not back there yet.
God, that's awesome. So, what I want you to tell everybody now is a special message. What would you like everybody to do and to focus on that is important?
What's important is take a breath and slow down. Take the time to pause. Take the breath, slow down, and know that you compete with no one, that you're perfect exactly as you are, that your path is unique among anyone else's in the entire world, and it's worthy as anyone else. That's what I want to say.
That is amazing. Do you have a quote or something that you live by?
See the miracle in people. Because I'm a personal trainer. And so many people in my industry, you look at people and you say, oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. I can fix this. You need me because of this. And that's exactly not what I do. What I do is I watch people and I watch how they move. And then I ask them questions. I notice that your foot doesn't move as much on this side as it does on this side. Is that an injury or is there something that you're just not aware of in your foot movement? And then I let them tell me what's going in their body. And a lot of times people have lived through miracles. The person whose foot didn't move had broken her back and been blind and in bed for 10 years. And she came to me for reformer Pilates. And if I had just come to her and assumed that there was something wrong with her, I would have never learned her miracle. And so that's how I approach life. That's how I approach training is I don't ever assume there's something wrong with someone. I look for the miracle.
Wow, thank you so much, Nancy. I could go on and on and on. We could schedule another interview just to talk about the holistic side of it because, Andrew, thank you so much, Andrew, for connecting us. Everything happens for a reason. That's why I believe in that's the reason why I start those interviews because everybody has a story, definitely. And I've learned so much with you.
You're giving an amazing gift to the world by showing that diversity in humanity and the uniqueness in humanity. And you're doing a huge, huge goodness to the world. So thank you for even considering having me today.
It's my pleasure, and I know everybody got something special today, especially on a Sunday. It's in Brazil now; it's afternoon, so I am so grateful. I'll be always grateful. And guys, next week, the 30th. Oh, next week we have a beautiful story. Josette, she's from
Mm-hmm.
California. Do you know her?
Mm-hmm.
She
Mm-hmm.
has cured um, herself because she believed in herself, and through dance she has found a way, and that's going to be another very inspiring story. So please tune in next Sunday at 2:30 Miami time to get to know Josette from California. She's from Santa Barbara, And then we have Werner the following week. We have so amazing people. I'm booked, thankfully, up to July with interviews. And this is so, so amazing. So, once again, Nancy, thank you so much. May
Thank
you
you.
have a beautiful Sunday, an amazing week filled with so much good. And thank you for sharing your good with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, guys. So thank you so much. You may have also a beautiful Sunday and an amazing week. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you next Sunday. Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks again, Fernanda.